Okay, so we're looking at Ramesh Balsekar's book, Consciousness Speaks. And it's a question and answer format. So the questioner, how do I witness? Ramesh, the question is irrelevant. In the witnessing, there is no you at all. That's the basic thing. Only in involvement, there's a you, not in witnessing. So, by involvement, he means a thought comes up, we get involved with it, we get on a train with it, we dwell on it, that's involvement. But I would rather not be involved. Exactly. You are seeking enlightenment. Therefore, you say, I am a seeker. I'm not supposed to get involved. I shouldn't have gotten involved. But that in itself is involvement. Well, questioner, the fact that I'm here is because I'm supposed to be here and I couldn't possibly be anyplace else. Ramesh, nor could I. The fact is you are here and listening. Some kind of listening is taking place. If the kind of listening taking place is total and basic, something more will come of it than if the listening is at the level of logic and reason. I remember the dialogue in which Krishnamurti was having a talk with Professor Bone. One of the first things he said, just spontaneously, was, yes, I am all alert. I am listening to you totally. Please go ahead. That is the kind of listening where your heart is open, your mind is open, the gate is wide open. At the same time, listening is not supposed to be brainwashing. Therefore, the scripture says, what you are listening to must be meditated upon. First is listening. Next, meditating on it, weighing it, ringing the coin to see if the coin is genuine. Then, if what you have heard appeals to your heart, only then accept it. And in accepting it, if there are some difficulties, then get them ironed out with your guru. Once the difficulties are ironed out, then the last stage is staying with it. The quality of that listening will bring a result. Questioner, how is uninvolved witnessing different from watching a movie? Ramesh, there is no difference. But when you are watching a movie, you are watching and reacting at the same time. Yesterday, we went to a movie that was rated X. Children were not allowed. Someone came in with an infant gurgling away. The infant was seeing precisely what everybody else was seeing, but was not reacting. The infant was witnessing because he was not involved. But when you watch a movie, you get involved with the characters, and therefore it is not listening.
Listening or witnessing?
I'm sorry, it is not witnessing. Thank you. Not witnessing or listening.
Yeah.
I find it really, questioner, I find it really frustrating. I'm witnessing, and then suddenly it's just gone. I want it to just keep happening all the time. Should I try something different? But I guess I'm asking the impossible. Ramesh, the moment you say, I witness, it is the mind merely watching its own mechanism. So you go round and round and round and round, you see, like if your car is stuck in the sand. The more you accelerate, the deeper your wheel goes into the sand. So what is needed to get the tire out is an outside force. This witnessing is not of the mind. This witnessing is a totally different dimension, which does not compare, which does not judge, which does not use the word should. There is no question of should or should not. The witnessing merely sees it. Anger arises. The anger is witnessed, but there is no me or a mind or intellect to say, I should not have been angry. In other words, there is no association or identification with the independent, spontaneous movement, which is termed anger. So any thought or emotion or desire that arises, when it is witnessed without comparing and judging, it gets cut off. Such witnessing is without an individual witnesser. Witnessing the thoughts in the mind means that thoughts do arise. And when thoughts arise, if the witnessing goes on, then as the thought arises, it gets cut off. Now, for instance, your digestive system and respiratory system are working, and your thoughts arise, and they can be witnessed. If there is no traffic on the highway, your driving becomes as automatic as your respiratory system. And as the thoughts arise, they will be witnessed, or there will be involvement. Either the you gets involved in the thoughts, or if the you is not there, and there is a certain amount of understanding, then there will be witnessing. Questioner, is witnessing also a thought? I mean, it occurs to me that to witness a thought or an emotion, it would have to take place afterwards in space-time. That there is the thought, and then immediately after, there is the witnessing. So is witnessing simultaneous with the thought or the feeling or the emotion? Ramesh, well, you see, the witnessing is really the understanding. Understanding in action is witnessing. And if the understanding is deep and full, then the witnessing and the cutting off happens simultaneously and concurrently as the thought arises. But even if the understanding is not complete, even if there's just a certain amount of understanding, I'll go to the extent of saying that even if the understanding is at an intellectual level, it is not that all is lost. As a thought arises, because the mind is used to being involved in it, there will be a certain amount of involvement. There will be a certain amount of horizontal movement. But that involvement will get cut off at some stage, maybe a fairly late stage, but nonetheless, a certain realization will arise that there is involvement, and then it will get cut off. And as the understanding goes deeper, the horizontal periods of movement, horizontal, he means in duration, in time, will become less and less frequent and less intense, until when the understanding is deep enough, the process of the thought arising and it's getting cut off vertically will be almost simultaneous or concurrent. So there is a witnessing just for a second, a split second, and then it gets cut off. Correct. In fact, witnessing means there is no involvement by a me. Well, doesn't this occur naturally? If we get involved in a thought, eventually it gets cut off when we go into another thought. Yes, but eventually. What ends then is the involvement, and then another thought arises, and there's further involvement. So in this continuous conceptualizing, what is present throughout is involvement. I was playing with the idea that a thought arises and nothing is done with it. So is that the nothingness of consciousness? Yes, indeed. It doesn't go into action. Witnessing gets cut off. There is no further thought. Another thought may come. Then again, the same thing happens. The only point is that when the thinking mind is not there, the thoughts arising will be fewer. When witnessing occurs, is it spontaneous? Witnessing is spontaneous and in the present moment. Therefore, any thought which arises gets cut off. It may come up again, but again, when it is witnessed, it gets cut off. Each time it arises, it gets cut off. As Ramana Maharshi said, it is like an uninvited guest. When ignored, gradually stops coming. But if I think of myself, I'm witnessing. No, you are not. There is no witness. Then it is the mind deceiving itself that witnessing is taking place. But witnessing is not taking place. The mind is merely observing its own operation and deceiving itself into thinking that there is witnessing. Questioner, when you are aware of something and then you become aware of being aware, is that the introduction of the self? It seems to me that it's very close to witnessing. Is there a difference? And if so, can you explain? Your question is based wittingly or unwittingly, consciously or unconsciously, on the assumption that there is a witnesser, someone witnessing. But the fact of the matter is that in witnessing, there is no witness. So long as there is someone who says, I understand, a trinity exists made up of the me, the something to be known, and the process of knowing, all of which are in phenomenality. In sudden, immediate understanding or witnessing, there is no me to realize anything. You may say later on, after the fact, I understood. But in the immediate understanding, there is no me who realizes anything. In this witnessing, there is no witnesser. It is an impersonal understanding. There is no feeling that I have understood. I ask the question because I reflect on what I've read and heard about witnessing, and I have a sense all of a sudden that as things are going around me, there's a detachment, and I become aware of that. And then I think, now who is it that's watching? It's almost like I try to turn around in my mind to see who it is, but it's gone because it's like the eye being unable to see itself. That's the whole point. So when this involvement is witnessed, that witnessing, the sudden witnessing, is not in phenomenality. The triad is not there. This triad of someone witnessing something isn't there. And that is why it gets cut off. It might arise again, or there may be an awareness later of this involvement being cut off because of that witnessing. But the witnessing cutting off this involvement is of an entirely different dimension. And the criterion is very simple in witnessing. There's no comparing. There is no judging. There is no rationalizing. There is no accumulation of anything. Well, what gets cut off? What gets cut off the thought when witnessing occurs? It is the witnessing of it. Witnessing means living in the present moment. Living in the present moment means not getting involved. The thinking mind is kept out. It keeps out. Well, why is living in the present moment acting as opposed to thinking? Living in the present moment is vertical, whereas the thinking mind is horizontal in duration. Involvement is always in duration. Once a thought comes, two things can happen, neither of which are in your hands. If your understanding is deep enough, then that thought will get cut off, though it may come again. But if that understanding has not yet started, then your thinking mind will get you involved in that thought which spontaneously arose. Understanding is witnessing. Impersonal consciousness becomes understanding. Understanding, in effect, in practice, becomes witnessing. There is nothing other than consciousness. So is witnessing the same as living the present moment? Yes. But living the present moment cannot be done by anyone, nor can witnessing be done by anyone. When witnessing goes on all the time, the organism lives in the present moment, which is the same as natural, spontaneous living, because there is no me living that life. It is merely witnessing the actions that take place through one's body-mind mechanism, precisely as witnessing the actions take place through any other body-mind. There is the deepest possible understanding that the body-mind organism, whether this one or another, had nothing to do with the functioning, that it is the pure subject or consciousness or God which functions through each individual organism. No individual organism has any volition. When that conviction is firmly there, you sit back, and then there is witnessing, and then there is silence, even amid the din of the roaring world. Then there is silence.
Did you read those, the 2 paragraphs ago?
There is the deepest possible understanding that the body-mind organism, whether this one or the other one or another one, had nothing to do with functioning, that it is the pure subject or consciousness or God which functions through each individual organism. No individual organism has any volition. When that conviction is firmly there, you sit back, and then there's witnessing, and then there is silence, even amid the din of the roaring world. Then there is silence. So there's functioning, right? So that's why they say there's no doer, there's only doing.
Right.
There's no watcher, there's only watching.
Mhm.
There's no thinker, there's only thinking. There's only functioning, inging.
Yeah.
So witnessing is obviously crucial and essential in getting in touch with that which is the ultimate subject, because the me cannot witness. When the me is witnessing, it's as he said, it's just the mind watching its own mechanism. But when there is no me, and there is just silent, choiceless awareness of whatever is arising, whatever is appearing in that present now moment.
So witnessing is the natural consequence, or the natural follow-on of the insight that there's no doer.
Right. And
can you describe a little bit what the doer, like the concept of a doer, like if you were to think there's a doer, like what's that inner dialogue? If you think that there's a doer, like I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
yes, I can control this, I can
It's like
do this, yeah.
Right. Almost like a train is making itself go. It's not. Right. I don't know.
Yes, that's right. That's right, Rosine. That's right.
Well, it is one of the most radical insights of the teaching that that there is no doer, that you're being lived, as it were.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So, and it's even scarier when you think there really is no volition.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's hard to grasp it. I mean,
yeah.
it's a little like breathing, right? I mean, we think we're breathing, but we're not breathing. We're not consciously breathing 95% of the time.
Right.
We're being breathed, but it feels like because we at times we can control it. Feels like we're breathing.
Well, there's the inging again, breathing, digesting,
Right.
talking, seeing.
Yes.
With no one really there doing any of it.
Well, no me.
Yeah.
No separate entity.
Absolutely. There's an impersonal presence,
Yes, yes,
but no personal me.
right.
So we're just witnessing everything that's happening. I mean, even,
Yeah.
even our conditioned thoughts and
Right, right.
So Evelyn, it says, he says, no individual organism has any volition. So are you guys of the mind that there's no volition within creation?
Well, from the, well, but what do you mean by creation? From the point of the absolute, there really isn't even any creation. There's no creation, there's no destruction.
I'm talking about the experience that we're having now, where
The,
we're the play of thought that we're experiencing.
how is that?
So what,
I'm not clear.
in that context, Chip, what's the question? The
Is
next,
there volition within the realm of creation?
You get a creative insight. For a creative insight occurs, right? Whether you're a musician, a painter, whether you garden, whatever, a creative insight occurs. The mind then takes that and manifests it in whatever arena you're working in. But that initial insight, I don't think that comes from any personal volition. Because then
Yeah.
we're back in the mind again.
Yeah,
Now, the me uses that insight, right? And manifests it.
Do you mean will by volition?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So you think basically the whole play of creation is there's no volition. It's just it's basically what you're saying, it's all fated.
no, I don't know, faded, because that would have some kind of purpose.
Right.
And
So it's purposeless and without direction.
Is it purposeless without direction?
Purposeless and without direction.
I don't know if the ultimate subject of awareness has any purpose or any direction. How could it? It has no quality like that. Right. So I think not. I think not. I believe that's what these teachings are saying. That that if you no longer identify as a body mind, see, the body itself has no consciousness,
Right.
right? So what is it that
Enemy.
animates the body mind? It must be something that's not in time, because the body mind is in time.
Mhm.
So it must be something, this awareness, because there's nothing that we could do. There's nothing that there's no way of on this level moving about the world without awareness. There's nothing, you're never not aware. There's only awareness, whether there's an awareness of an object or no object. There's even awareness of no object. So this awareness, which the teachings say was never born and can never die, seems to be the animating factor of this body mind. And that awareness, how could it have a purpose? And how could it have volition?
Right.
Well, the idea of a purpose, that's a concept. That's a creation of the mind.
Right.
It's not like an organism that you're born with a heart. You have no say in whether you have a heart or not, or a
Right.
liver, or an organ, whatever organs, or a brain for that matter.
Right.
I mean, that's part of the package. You
Yeah.
come out and you have a body. You're born with a body.
Right.
And you know how in Vedanta it says the Leela, God's play,
Mhm, mhm.
which is the term they use in Vedantic, right? You hear that in Vedantic literature, God's Leela, right? I think when he said no individual organism has any volition, I think he's basically saying volition is the attribute of the self with a capital S, and only the self. So for example, right now, I'm sitting and I want to raise my hand. All of us, let's say, if we wanted to raise our hands. Thank you, Ugo, for going along with me on that one. I would say that's an act of volition that's inspired through the self with a capital S. And I think to me, it's a demonstration of volition. It's not, in other words, there is volition. I mean, we can see that just by me raising my hand, we can see that I've taken an action. I've taken a course of action. And so I think it's that no individual organism has any volition. I think that's not saying that there's no volition within the realm of creation. I think it's God's Leela. That's how I see it. Because if God's Leela exists, then that's a sign of volition. It's play. It's amusement.
If it exists,
Right, but that's what.
but it may
that's,
not exist.
right, but that's what that Vedantic literature does talk about. That.
Well, it attributes all this to Leela, but
Right.
that doesn't necessarily mean, that could be at some level of the teaching, but I think at the ultimate level of the teaching, how could that even exist? So I don't know the answer, Chip, to
It's
your
interesting,
question.
yeah.
It just seems
Yeah.
from what I've read from that, and just if you just think about it, according to this teaching, how is it at all possible for the ultimate subject to have any volition? But I don't know. It's something we could really
Yeah.
look at, maybe research or.
And the word play of Leela, the word play, pure play is pure spontaneity and just for the joy of the act itself, rather than a purpose or a volition. When a little toddler or a 3-year-old is running around on the lawn, skipping and yipping and yapping and playing and laughing, I don't know, that seems pretty spontaneous, and I don't know, seems to me free of volition in a sense. It's just done for the joy of it.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. And I think that's where we can get to in our lives. And Evelyn, I think you're totally on target with that, the absolute not having volition. I think volition takes place within the realm of creation, within the realm of things. Because you're right, within the realm of no things, there's volition doesn't make sense.
Right.
Because
Right.
there's no thing. So what's
Right.
That's
right. So I totally agree with that as
Right.
well. So anyway,
Right.
just a thought. Thank you.
It's interesting because there seems to be like a creative force somehow connected to all of this. I mean, just when I look at Layla and how, like plants create seeds and there's more plants and, there are like inspirations for, art and music and poetry, but it's not volition. It's just like an opening to something, but it's almost like an invitation to volition. I don't know. It's there's some kind of connection. I really don't know what it is, but
Well, so we
That-
have, then we can witness.
mhm.
It's interesting to witness when suddenly there's an insight, a creative insight.
Mhm.
It happens often, very, very often. And you know, we don't give much attention to that. But if we could, then we would begin to see that that this ultimate subject is always the background of everything that we know as things. And his talk here on witnessing, I just think is really important, because we get to know the me, and we get to know, or we're more in touch with, or there's more of a realization of the ultimate subject. And I think that's what all the practice and the studying and the call, you know, each one of us is here tonight because there's a call to be here tonight. We could be doing a lot of other things, but we're here.
Mhm.
So there's something that's calling us.
Also, you could think another construct, of course, but witnessing is the seeing when there's no movement of thought.
Yes. The seeing of a thought arising without the movement of thought.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing thought arising, emotion arising without the movement of
Mhm.
thought.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds to me like if this were to be expressed in the form of an offering or a recommendation, it might be to consider bringing some of the aspects of meditation to the present waking moment, in the moment of action.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, because in the meditative space, there is no movement of thought. When if you're in a meditative place, your mind isn't busy. So there wouldn't be any thought associated with whatever arises.
In my experience, it is the rising of a thought that interferes.
Yes.
Yes,
That's right.
of course.
But if the practice of meditation is a conscious practice, that rising thought is witnessed and terminates.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
as long as we don't identify as the meditator.
right. Right. Another word might be attention.
Mm-hmm.
When there is attention to what is going on, to what is moving across the mind, or what is moving inside the body. When there's attention to that, without a me involved, That's witnessing. It's really quite beautiful because it's like freeing. And it helps then not to be attached to whatever arises. So that as he gave the example, so anger arises or fear arises, there's in the witnessing without this me, just the witnessing, there's a freedom from it. Well, because it gets cut off. And as he said, it may come up again, but again, it gets cut off.
Well, when you're witnessing without the me, you don't get any feelings from it.
That's right. That's right.
There isn't, you're not reacting to the thought, you're just seeing thought. That's hard for me to do, and sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't, but I definitely can see, especially with anger. I can see the anger, and you know, I sit there and shake my head and this, that, and the other thing, but there's a point at which after I get through, it's like takes a stage. I express something comes up and I react. I get angry and I'm really into it. Now I'm trying to talk this thing and but there's a point at which I come to the realization of what I'm doing, that I'm letting this concept of me, letting this I take control. And once that comes in, it just ends that quest to try to feed this anger, and it just goes away. So, you know, I like to call myself, the ego, my censor. And you know, you think about something and the thought is going to be processed by the ego, and when it does, that's when you have the problems. So for me, when I can catch it, I can do something about it. It really does work. Just watching yourself be what you're not. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, when you say sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, you're saying that's the times when it either gets cut off or when you start, as he said, the involvement with it.
Right, the minute you react to it.
Right. The
You're
minute
caught.
you react to it.
I think I'd like to say something about this if I could.
Yes.
I'm comforted with the words of Ramesh Balsekar when he talks about free will, and he talks about it in terms of there's like two components to it. There's sort of your DNA, you know, how you're originally wired to be behaviorally, emotionally. You're kind of born with that. You don't get a choice in that. And then the other component is a part where you're sort of socialized, you know, where you grew up with your parents, your friends, your school, your politics. And all of that determines whether you will be able to have the presence of mind to do what Ugo was just talking about. Will I have the presence of mind to be able to take a moment to step back? It's not under my control whether I have the ability to step back or not. It's already predetermined. It's already in there. So I don't worry about whether I get caught up in it or not, because that's exactly what's supposed to happen too. So I feel to me, it's very comforting to know, for me, in that belief. And that is a concept. That is definitely a concept, but it's one that kind of rings true for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's well, from my own experience, there's a movement that precedes anger. And the anger is kind of a false thing that wants to camouflage or deny that initial movement. And I can't find a better word for that initial movement except for fear
Mm,
or being frightened,
mm,
a spark of being frightened, because fear can be an ongoing thing, but being frightened is a very sudden thing. And then the anger just seems to deny
hmm.
that
The fear.
I think he froze.
Oh,
Bill, you froze.
oh, Bill. Yeah, I don't know how to correct that.
And he was saying something so important.
Yeah, Bill, can you hear us? Oh,
He might come back. Sometimes if
Yeah.
you turn your camera off, it's better reception because it doesn't use as much something.
oh. Bill,
Do
if
you
you,
think
if,
that it has to do with when things are strong? Like, Ugo and Bill are talking about anger, that kind of wakes them up to take a step back, to look at see the awareness more. And what I'm wondering is maybe it's like just a strong emotion that kind of like reminds us to step back, because not all of us have that comes up for us. Sometimes it's just a different emotion, but maybe the stronger the emotion, it kind of wakes us up to realize that we do need to be that, to disassociate from the
Mm.
ego
mm,
and you step into really more the witness.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's what Bill was heading toward and what he was saying. I thought he was also saying that there's fear, there's an awareness of anger, and then there's an awareness of fear. And it's easier for most of us to be angry than frightened. So I think it's really, really important that with the witnessing, one is able to see that what is associated with the anger is fear, or a deeper
I
part.
wonder if also what he meant, I hope he comes back, so we're talking
Yeah, I
about what
hope
he meant.
so. I hope
But
so.
like when there's that feeling of fear, that it's because of it's separation from the all. So as soon as I'm
Mm,
in my ego, there's this immediate maybe fear because being separated is all of a sudden like, whereas when I'm in that all, there's no fear. It's
yes. Yeah. Well, this is a really good point, Roisin, because it's really hard to be an ego, a me, and not be frightened, because the fact that we are a me, an ego, means that we've separated off from the all, as you put it. And how can we not then be frightened? We're so vulnerable. It's so without substance, true substance.
Yeah, I
And
look,
I think I just want, it's interesting because I told you when we spoke to Jean Klein and we asked him, how will we know when there's true realization. He said, there will be no more fear and there will be no more desire. In other words, there will be no more me, but there will be functioning
Right.
and even better functioning. And there will be joy, but not joy dependent on an object to bring us joy. Right.
Well, I can also state that fear, for me, it's I always feel like I'm being threatened. Is a threat, and the threat causes the fear. But it's mostly about the threat, because Hugo is very insecure. I mean, there's a lot of things that he has built up, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, you go through the whole thing of how you know you've created this image of yourself, and it's very.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Hugo, we lost you.
At the moment, that's who I am.
Oh.
And you know, whatever thought I'm present with, that's who I am, and that can be very fluid. And I think that's what it is. I think when I really, if I can drill down, sometimes I can drill down what the anger is all about. It's a fear. It's a fear that somehow something is going to happen to me. That car is going to kill me, or that politician wants to get my money, or whatever it is. And it's all based on thinking.
Yeah.
And if I can see that and then stay with, you know, God bless Krishnamurti, choiceless awareness, moment to moment, you know, it makes it a lot easier when I can do it,
Right. Well, I think it's what Bernie just said before, that when those strong emotions appear, if in that moment there can be witnessing, it will get cut off.
But it's interesting, you know, I mean, I understood what Bill and Hugo were saying. But for me, during those periods of strong emotion is not when I'm stepping back and being looking at my awareness. It's more in a relaxing state for me that I'm able to take a step back, because then I'm in a more relaxed point of perspective. And that's, for me, again, you know, for everyone it may be different, but that's when I'm able to slow down my thought and be the witness. I can't do that in an agitated state. So I just think we're all different.
Yeah. Well, it's as Balsekar said, when there's as the understanding deepens, there's a better ability, or I don't know if ability is the right word, but then as the understanding deepens, the witnessing, even when the emotions are very strong, start to occur. And I liked when he said, all is not lost. It doesn't have to be at that moment cut off. It could be a moment later.
Right.
Because at any point that you're stuck in a strong, painful emotion, at any point that there's a remember to witness, then an actual witnessing of it without naming it, and shine the spotlight of awareness on it without naming it. it begins to dissipate. And I know that's true.
Well, in the one moment, you're all involved, like he says, and in the next moment, or hopefully the next moment, it may be a moment after the next moment, but at some point, there's a stepping back,
Yes.
a disengagement.
Yeah.
And then the witnessing takes on a different quality.
Yes. Yes. Well, I guess that will be it for tonight. I thank you all for coming.
Yes, have a good week, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye-bye.
It was really
Buonasera.
great.
so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the lovely
Bye.
weather.
Chip says goodbye too, and thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
good,
Bye-bye.
good.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao tutti.
Ciao.